I returned from Gaza on November 4th of 2023. I am an ER nurse by trade, a humanitarian by heart, and prior to October 7th, I had been working in Indonesia Hospital in northern Gaza alongside some of the most dedicated doctors, nurses, and staff I have ever had the privilege of meeting. On the second day of the war, I found out Ahmed Mustafa died. Ahmed, like the rest of the nurses that I had worked with, was incredible. He, like the others, challenged me, was always poking fun at me, laughed with me, and stood by me during every success, obstacle, failure, and triumph. Ahmed had a smile that could light up a room and a heart that was capable of loving beyond race, religion, background, or nationality. Ahmed, Imad, Mohammed, Ashjan, Mena, Mona, and several other Palestinians I worked with sat at the nurses' station one day, and because I have no filter, I asked an accidentally life-changing question. I said, considering the fact that I'm an American, and the US and Israel have very close political ties, is my being an American a problem here? Like, when I say where I'm from, will people automatically hate me? Should I lie? They responded with the following statement: we know that our governments do not get along and that our countries are not aligned, but people are not their government. And anyone willing to come to Gaza to help will find home here. We hope you feel most welcome, and may you love Gaza and its people as much as we do. Ahmed was killed in an airstrike next to Indonesia Hospital while doing his job as a nurse. And like everyone else who has lost someone in this war, I wonder every day how to honor their legacy. How do you scream from the rooftops that the numbers on a screen, statistics of the byproducts of war, were actually pieces of your heart? How do you yell louder than the cacophony of blame that this person is more than just fuel for a political firestorm? That they are not just ammunition in the loaded guns of an agenda? In the first days of the war, we were relocated to a UN building in Ramal before we were forced to move south of the Wadi Gaza line. And in a building with over 300 displaced Palestinians, we somehow found sidewalk chalk, and 50 kids and I started to decorate the driveway outside. If we are going to fight for normalcy in a bunker, then damn it, it will be a beautiful bunker. We will give them color and smiles and laughter and love, unapologetic, loud, selfless love. In my exhaustion, their laughter was medicine. For you, I can keep going. For you, I can give more, do more, push harder, and dig deeper. I hadn't eaten, and I was dizzy. I danced with a little girl, and another hugged my leg. My heart is racing, and it is the intoxication of angels in the depths of hell. My vision blurs in colorful plumes of chalk dust. And it is a familiar mix of love and rage that drive my muscles as I spin a little boy in circles. I can't breathe. I can't breathe because they are hugging me too tightly. And I can't breathe because I can't protect them from the pain and loss and mortal fear that is raining down with more to come. My head is spinning and I can't make it stop, and I am losing control of the too much of the feelings I can't hold on to long enough to identify, too much of things I can't find language for, too much, and I can't make it stop, but I can turn it into motivating rage. Color every paver in this driveway. Can you see our names from your drone? Draw faces on the walls under the barbed wire. Can you see the tiny chalk outlines of the bodies of your future crime scene? Orange flowers and blue peace signs and green hearts and purple palm trees. Can you feel my desperate anger through your border wall? In the extremes, I become willing to die in the name of love, loyalty, and global responsibility. In the extremes, I am quick to decide that nothing else exists on this earth outside of who I am trying to protect. In the extremes, I realize how easy it is to become the monsters you fear when the line between good and evil is blurred by righteous indignation. Having worked in several emergency departments all over the world, one commonality I have found in the face of senseless loss is blame. I have blamed parents and spouses and friends. I have blamed society for suicides and broken systems for preventable loss. We get angry first. We point fingers. It is easier to sit self-righteously in the black and white of who is at fault than to exist in a world of pain I can't make sense of. It is easier to take that pain and bottle it into an anecdote of anger, loading it into the guns of hatred, and plunging into the abyss of vigilante justice. It feels better in the immediate moment to set the world on fire and watch it burn in the dark hope that someone else will feel a fraction of your loneliness, to make the world pay for your broken heart. Justice feels like the only solution to loss. But it is the easy choice to allow pain to transform you into a monster. It is the easy choice to allow the ignorance of black and white thinking to dictate your hatred. It is the easy choice to hide behind blame. It is so much harder to move past the satisfaction of self-righteousness and into empathy. It is the harder choice to see brotherhood in the blindness of rage. Who here has heard the word anarchy? For those of you who are unfamiliar with the word, dictionary.com defines anarchy as a lack of obedience to an authority. We, as a society, find comfort in like-mindedness, and in that comfort, we conform to the narratives of the labels we have identified with. Even if you identify with the anti-normative resistance, there is still a satisfied primal instinct in the safety of numbers, a biological need to belong. The shared interests, the group's ideals, that overarching narrative, they become the authority we bow to. So what happens when we drift away from that authoritative label? What happens when instead of hiding behind our protest flag-laden barricade, we choose to see what connects us to the people on the other side? As an ER nurse, I have been asked countless times, what is the most horrific thing you've ever seen? Having worked in 5 emergency departments across the US and several more across 4 countries, I can say that most ER nurses will answer the same way. We will tell wild stories of saving lives or hilarious tales of mishap, or we will use it as a platform to encourage wearing a seatbelt or gun safety or other general words of caution. But away from the audiences, in the quiet conversations with each other, we all tend to say the same thing. The most horrific thing we have ever encountered is the echoing sound of loss. The scream of a mother losing her child is the same in every language. Tall, proud, strong men crumbling under the weight of grief does not know cultural divides. We stand in restrained silence as body bags are grabbed and pulled and clung to by broken survivors desperate for a final goodbye. Etched into our souls are the sounds of not being enough. You see, there are places in your soul unreachable by language, places where there are no words. In love that defies explanation, and in visceral pain, in the way music makes you feel, the connection of soul, the phrase, I see you, the silence of just knowing. It is what happens when language can't reach the depths of the human experience, what happens when you can't find words for the indescribable. The human experience that exists beyond language is filled with universal truth, truth that is sometimes excruciating. In a refugee camp, I wiped dead skin off the burn of a child's face. I taught a sobbing daughter how to give her elderly mother injections. Throughout my career, I have seen more dead kids than any human should ever have to see. In Gaza, families begged us for insulin. Mottled piles of skin took ragged breaths with no access to oxygen. Soaking wet mothers and shivering children and broken fathers cried themselves to sleep on pockets of available pavement on the street. Desperation is not a strong enough word to describe heartbroken civilians in a war zone. When we move past the choruses that feel righteous and unanimous and into the indescribable, that is where we find humanity. To stand solidly in the visceral of what connects us, humanity requires a little bit of anarchy. It is an act of anarchy to extricate ourselves from the narratives of our enemies and allies alike, and to share in the depths of grief and fear and love and hope with our counterpart on the other side of the picket line. It is an act of anarchy to dig deeper than my side and yours and into that languagelessness, allowing yourself to connect with the human beings who exist beyond the headlines. It is an act of anarchy to actively seek what connects us. Throughout my career, I have treated and saved the lives of pedophiles, murderers, racists, and bigots. Their crimes reverberate through my soul and claw at the scars left behind by others of their likeness. And I am not God. I do not get to take revenge for the injustices of this world by refusing to treat people who I despise because they are also human. While objectively horrifying, my experience in Gaza would also prove to be inspiring. While our survival hung in the balance of negotiations and war room briefings, it was civilians that kept us fed. While brass-laden leaders dug in their heels, it was civilians that got us water. While political agendas pushed the buttons, launching destructive artillery, it was civilians who demonstrated humanity. Tarek lost 25 members of his family in a single airstrike and came to the parking lot where we slept with tears in his eyes to make sure we had gotten south of Wadi Gaza safely. Sharkari was beaten while he slept over a tarp and drove through rockets and airstrikes the next day, appearing before us with a black eye and a gash on his cheek and hygiene supplies for us in his hands. Every other day, Jimmy leaves his family of 35 24 of which are children, to make sure that there is someone with us so that we feel protected and cared for. Taher makes us coffee over an open fire as we sit together, exhausted. Ibrahim shoved his way through crowds to get us through the Rafah border cross, only to lose his father and brother that night. Heroic anarchy is our Palestinian staff who knew that my labels, my country, my tax dollars, and my government were funding a military that was killing their families and choosing to love and protect me anyway. And while militaries and governments are not held to the same human standards as healthcare workers, we, as humanity, cannot continue to condemn the guilty on the backs of the innocent. Buried under the rubble of pointed fingers are the bodies of children. In the fires of who started it are the ashes of men and women whose only crime was to be born into a country at war. People are not their government. I cannot and I will not speak for Gaza or for Palestinians. They have their own voices and perspectives and stories that deserve to be told by them. What I can do is speak to the humanity that I watched rise above the hatred, humanity that rages on in every corner of the earth, shattered by violence. I have been to enough places, I have seen enough of hell to know that the human experience in all of its resilience exists everywhere. I know that there will always be people on every side of every conflict who quietly carry the torch of humanity because I have seen it. For me, I can talk about the beauty of civilians who I watched make the harder choice to do the right thing and not the easy thing. Civilians who showed me that it is possible to remain human in the inhumane. Buck the black and white of what your label says is right or wrong. Step outside of the comfort zone of like-mindedness. Reject the authority of moral ambiguity. Be heroic anarchy. It is the only way to find humanity.